Thinking of buying a new car in 2025? Do you want a car that actually gets upgrades every other month? Interested in driving something exhilarating, so much so that you'll make excuses to drive it daily? In this video, I'll touch on 4 convincing reasons why it's finally time to consider driving a Tesla Model Y or Tesla Model 3, a car that actually resembles the future rather than driving a new car of the past. And by the past, I mean that it's now time to skip a brand new petrol car and that hybrid and opt for a new Tesla EV. It's finally time to step out that comfort zone of yours and let your new daily runner be a Tesla. Taking a step back, if I was actually to put myself into your shoes, what would I want to hear if I exclusively drove a petrol or diesel car again? What 4 reasons would convince a hesitant self to move from my comfort zone of driving what I know best to a Tesla EV for the very first time? And spoiler alert, it won't be talking about environmental factors at all within those 4 reasons. This video will be exclusively about why it's a better car for you and why owning a 2025 Tesla Model Y or 3 will be good enough for you to close the door on that petrol car ownership for good. Therefore, I'll be discussing about how my car gets free upgrades that delivers new features that can cost thousands of pounds or dollars over a traditional petrol car. And yes, that is a factual statement, and you'll find out why in just a moment. How it's now cheaper to buy, drive, and maintain than at any point ever. Plus, I'll turn common hesitations like maybe range and charging on its head with an alternative perception. So before I kickstart the video, I'd appreciate if you could just drop the video a cheeky like, subscribe if you haven't already, and do that, hit that notification bell if you haven't done so. Right, let's get into it. The very first reason Tesla EVs like the 2025 Tesla Model 3 and Tesla Model Y set a benchmark of how cars should be in the future is software upgrades. In the UK and Europe, around this time last year, overnight Tesla actually started to roll out a free software update that added matrix lighting capabilities for the fleet all the way up to older 2021 Tesla Model 3s like mine. And I also believe that the US got this exact same update just a few weeks ago. So what does this have to do with anything? Well, tell me a time when a car manufacturer just casually enabled a feature that can cost thousands of dollars or pounds for free on your doorstep. Therefore, my point isn't even about just receiving this lighting update. It's about receiving brand new, meaningful features to your car for free, and that gives you that new car buzz that you typically used to get every few years when you actually picked up a brand new car. So to conclude this point, when you own a new Tesla, you will get new features every few months that can be as extreme as a small range increase, though that hasn't happened for a while, increasing peak charging speeds, adding speed camera awareness to navigation, adding new video or music streaming apps, enhancing climate features, adding security features, and just useless crap things like, emissions mode, aka fart mode. So my point is, when you do buy a new petrol car, that new car feeling, it fades as it sees 0 improvements over its lifetime, unlike a Tesla. These software updates are free of charge and generally add features and functions that you want to see, but it also gives it that new car feeling as the car is consistently getting better. Most of the time, it's a surprise too on what is actually being added to the car, and I can almost guarantee that you've never experienced a petrol car that's quite like it. Hitting next with probably the most controversial reason to move to an EV, charging a new Tesla Model Y or 3 is way more convenient than refueling a petrol or diesel car. In fact, if you have access to off-road parking facilities, it is an absolute breeze. And I mean this without bragging, it's empowering that you can actually just charge from home on your drive. Think about it. Your time dedicated to charging is probably about, 45 seconds, just plugging it in, etc. And it charges around you and your lifestyle. I remember back to my petrol driving days, I'd have to find a petrol station on my journey or plan to combine it with a supermarket trip when the fuel light came on. Whereas now, I just drive home like I do every other day, plug it in if I need to. But for my circumstance, this is our sole family car, and we are probably comparable to an average user, so we do complete around 9 to 10,000 miles a year. Therefore, if you do your commute, pick your kids up from school, drive to a supermarket, visiting family, etc., just doing your daily or weekly errands really. Even then, if you find yourself being a bit more adventurous in the weekends, and even more so in the summer, you may be surprised to hear that you never really have to sit and wait for a charge. So whilst you may initially think that charging is inconvenient, it's pretty much the opposite to the refueling experience. It's truly liberating that you do not need to rely on your petrol station having fuel and then having to queue up to obtain the said fuel. And you also don't have like dirty hands picking up the charger, so you don't need to stand out in the freezing cold until it's done like you would do in a refueling experience. And with EVs, you have additional options too. So if you do want to take it to the next level, I know some EV users do actually install solar on their homes, so they literally have made their own EV equivalent of home-produced dinosaur juice, you could say, to supply the home petrol station. Others, they may have access to free charging at work, and hey, there's no better way to charge if it's on the boss, free of charge. So whilst charging from home is the most convenient way, depending on your sort of wholly unique circumstances, you suddenly realise that if you do have access to a power outlet, you can almost charge from literally anywhere in the world, not forgetting to obtain the bill pays permission, because someone's got to pay, of course. Now, if you're about to say, what about your long trips, Adam? Surely you must sit around waiting to charge then? Well, yes and no. Even with rapid charging or supercharging, they are usually situated so you can securely just plug in, go grab yourself a bite, maybe take the other half on a shopping trip. And if you're interested in a real life example, you can see my video on my longest road trip of the year on the top right of the screen now. Noting I could be doing it again shortly, so do subscribe if you do want to see my latest video on this very topic. But to summarise, if you're not waiting around and you are doing something that you actually want to do, are you truly waiting? 6% of my charging this year is from supercharging, and every other charging session this year has been from home at a cost of around 7.5 pence per kilowatt hour, or £3.75 for say 250 miles. And yes, supercharging does cost more than home charging. However, at £14 from my local supercharger for a circa 250 mile bump for one of these very little times I do actually need to supercharge, it's hardly breaking the bank. And I do remember the price of petrol very well. Moving on to pricing. Did you think EVs were still more expensive to buy than petrol and diesel cars? Well folks, the battery costs have dropped dramatically, and like dominoes, the prices of Tesla cars have fallen, and you get yourself some super attractive finance deals direct from Tesla too, like 0% APR. And if we look at a similar car to the Tesla Model 3, a traditional German-made petrol motor, take the Mercedes C-Class. Here in the UK and the US, in the UK, for example, you can pick up a base spec C-Class sedan from £45,000 compared to the base Model 3 at £39,990. And the base Model 3 has barely any differences in spec compared to its top line variant. But I can assure you the differences between the Merc and the Tesla in spec is pretty big, and it's over 10% cheaper to buy on the list price. That gap is even wider in the US at around $7,000. All of this doesn't take into account the running costs too, which truly do make running a petrol car look archaic. And this isn't some propaganda, and I know it sounds brutal when I say you're never going to get 2p a mile from a petrol car, but if you want to see some receipts of the lack of running costs for an EV, take a look at my video on the screen now. The fact is, if you're still considering a petrol car, do compare the prices, especially factoring the spec, because for $42,490 or £39,190, it's crammed with tech associated with luxury vehicles like a rear passenger screen, heated and ventilated seats, and those Matrix-like headlights I mentioned earlier. The Tesla will most likely be cheaper to buy, like for like. The running costs will most definitely be cheaper in a vast majority of circumstances, and you'll probably find that the spec of the new Tesla Model Y and Model 3 is better too. Literally, it's more car for your money, and that's more money for accessory purchases like neck pillows that I'm sitting on right now. And if you like this one in the video, do check out the video description for the link. The fourth reason to ditch your petrol or diesel car is the fact that the Tesla Model 3 is far more convenient to service and maintain than your petrol or diesel car. The fundamentals of an electric car is that it's made up of thousands of less parts, and so with less mechanical breakpoints, that's less friction between the components, and that's going to mean less wear and tear and less time in the garage and more time on the road. Even better yet, when it comes to servicing, Teslas are so confident in reliability of its vehicles that it insists on servicing it on a as needed basis. Yes, there is still a small list of items or service recommendations that you can do from home, such as topping up your washer fluid and swapping your cabin filters advised by Tesla, that still needs to be completed. But that small list definitely beats heading down to my local dealership for an actual annual service. And with a Tesla, you'll only need to rely upon service should you notice a difference or a failure occurring. Even then, you can literally rely on Tesla's mobile service to come out to you to rectify most issues. This all stems from a simple appointment made via your Tesla app on your smartphone. A mobile technician will then come out to you and attempt to fix said issue. But to summarise, the Tesla Model 3 and Model Y is more convenient to service and maintain than your traditional petrol experience because it's eradicated the traditional annual servicing requirement and made maintenance much more convenient for you. That's fewer failures to deal with, and when the unexpected does occur, you can get a solution dealt with at your doorstep or at the place of work. And it's not out of the realms of possibility that it could be fixed via a software update. And it's these little incremental factors that make owning a Tesla that next step over your typical petrol ownership experience. So to conclude, I've just scraped the surface of why Tesla owners will never be petrol owners again. The cost of recharging is undoubtedly cheaper, the convenience of recharging is better from home, maintenance is less, and the car comes with industry-leading tech and safety as standard. And I haven't even touched on the full self-driving capabilities and Tesla's autopilot, which frankly speaks for itself of how useful it truly is. The software updates really do make the car feel better, and it makes it feel fresh every so often with brand new features and capabilities. Teslas are generally not only easier to own, but also easier to drive. They're designed to make driving simpler from the ground up. Don't be fooled by the big central screen. A Tesla EV is far easier to drive, own, maintain, repeat than you think. If you really want your arm twisting even more, the next best thing, hopefully to this video, is to book yourself a test drive with Tesla to see what it's all about. And if you used my Tesla referral link in the comments in order to order a car or maybe even book that test drive, I believe that you do get some referral credits which you can use against some free supercharging if you buy a Tesla in the future. So what do you guys think? Are you planning on saying goodbye to your petrol car over the next few years? And if so, I'd love to know what's convinced you most. If you're still hesitant, do let me know in the comments below if you need any sort of reassurance on anything. I'll try to help wherever I possibly can. If you're not done so already, do check out the links in the video description for some cheeky Tesla discounts on some certain Tesla accessories. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and share the video with any friends or family who may find this video beneficial. You folks have been great, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.